Greetings, my name is Lilian Zheke and I work as the Agriculture and Livelihoods Technical Advisor for Southern Africa. I support Canadian Food Grains Bank and Tier Fund partners on agriculture and livelihoods projects. And today I'm going to be talking about aggregated marketing of grain crops and how aggregation is important in addressing the barriers smallholders farmers face as they try to access the markets. And I'm going to be focusing most of what I'll be presenting on our experience in marketing, and we'll be particularly focusing on the Scaling Up Conservation Agriculture program that was implemented in East Africa. My colleague John, who is also an agriculture and livelihoods technical advisor based in Nairobi, will be coming in a bit later on, and you will be focusing mostly on some of the lessons that we learned on aggregation and marketing through the implementation of the Scaling Up Conservation Agriculture program. Grain markets play an important role in rural livelihoods for the majority of farmers in the region that we work with. Farmers, as they interact with markets, they are looking for markets that they can rely on. They are also looking for markets that can pay competitive prices so that in the process of marketing, they can actually increase their income. They are also able to reinvest in production and produce even better quality produce. But as the smallholder farmers are trying to access markets, they face a lot of challenges. To start with, they cannot be able to interact with larger buyers who often want bigger volumes and are prepared to pay better prices. This is because they are often fragmented, and in terms of production, most of farmers produce very small quantities. And also, the roads and communication infrastructure in most areas is often very poor. So what this means is that as they are trying to access the markets, their cost of actually trying to get to the market is very high. And without good storage facilities, farmers cannot afford to wait and try to access better prices because they risk losing their produce to post-harvest losses. And most of the farmers do not have access to information and services that would otherwise help them improve their position as well as their productivity. And to overcome some of the barriers that I've just highlighted, farmers need to work together. They need to bulk their produce so that it becomes economical to transport, to store, and trade. This has so many advantages. To start with, we talked about attracting better markets. So by having bigger volumes, farmers are able to attract better markets that actually pay better. And also by coming together and speaking with one voice, farmers are able to increase their bargaining power and negotiate and lobby for better prices. And there's also reduction in costs, particularly when we look at transport, because the cost per farmer when farmers are together or when farmers are doing marketing together actually goes down. And this also applies to reduction in costs and convenience of provision of information and other services. Aggregation can take many forms driven by farmers themselves or other market players, but aggregation through farmer groups is more useful to address challenges that we've been talking about. Aggregation in most of our cases is through both informal and formal groups. And when we talk about aggregation through informal groups, I can give the example of maize farmers that come together after harvest to transport their maize grain to an identified buyer who is offering better price. In most cases, these are millers that are working with retailers, packaging maize meal and selling it to retailers. And we also work with formal groups. These are groups that have been organized and they've been capacitated and they have representation through marketing committees. And the marketing committees are actually responsible for organizing the farmers, for organizing production, and for identifying buyers for their produce, and they also negotiate with buyers on behalf of the farmers. I will now focus on our experience on aggregation based on Scaling Up Conservation Agriculture Program, a program that was funded by Canadian Food Grains Bank. It was a 5-year program and we call it SUGA for short. So the program covered Ethiopia, Kenya, and Tanzania. And the goal of this program was actually to improve food security and livelihoods of small-scale farmers. And one of the key components of the SUKA program was that of marketing. And this was because of the realization that without a clear marketing strategy, increasing production alone may actually result in oversupply and other marketing issues which can be a disincentive to the farmers. The program introduced the concept of collective marketing to existing groups that were working on conservation agriculture. So after raising awareness and training, the program facilitated self-selection of farmers into aggregation groups, and the groups were focusing on sorghum, maize, and other legumes. So to help the farmers move away from just being price takers and participate more meaningfully and profitably in marketing, the program had a number of trainings that were rolled out, including some participatory exercises to help the farmers to understand marketing dynamics as well as the marketing process. To start with, the farmers did some market maps, and this was a very useful way of trying to visualize the different channels through which their grain moves, and also to estimate some of the volumes of the grain that moves through the different channels. And the farmers also had the opportunity to work on some marketing calendars, and this was very useful in identifying months during which crops have better prices when they should be able to sell, as well as a month during which the prices are very low and it would not be advisable for farmers to be selling. And the farmers also had the opportunity to do some gross margin analysis, and this enabled them to analyze the cost of production against income being realized after selling. And collaborations and aggregations were also trained on. And this was mainly to help the farmers to appreciate the benefits of collective selling. Farmers also received training and support on post-harvest management. And to promote post-harvest management technologies, the project actually used an incentivized approach whereby farmers were allowed to get one bag free for every bag that they had bought. So if a farmer bought one bag, they would also get another additional bag for free. And through this approach, a total of close to 30,000 improved crop storage bags were actually bought. The program also connected farmers to market information through market platforms and also through linkages to various buyers. And farmers were linked to market platforms such as the Regional Agricultural Trade Intelligence Network, and they also benefited from linkages to buyers such as FarmShine, who not only provided linkages to potential markets, but also advised on crop varieties in demand. As indicated earlier, John will be sharing on the successes, lessons, and challenges on aggregation based on the SUKA program. John, over to you now.
Thank you, Lilian, for taking time to introduce scaling up conservation agriculture and also talking about approaches that this project employed to start off the marketing within the project. And personally, I'll go through the success and also the challenges and also lessons that we learned out of this project. And my name, as introduced by Lilian, is John Kimathi Mbae. working as agriculture and livelihood technical advisor in Eastern Africa for Tier Fund and Canadian Food Grains Bank. To start off, SUKA, we call it SUKA, Scaling Up Conservation Agriculture Project. We were able to, there was a formation of 55 aggregation groups in Kenya only, not talking about Tanzania and Ethiopia. And in Kenya, what happens, these groups came together to aggregate sorghum, to aggregate maize, and also some of the group also aggregating legumes together like beans. We have green grams, things like that. And also out of this group, we earned 649 specifically for sorghum, 649 individual farmers or individual household, and 425 individual household form in aggregation to sell maize together. And what happened with the aggregation, as mentioned by Lilian, the groups were taken through different marketing activity, facilitating for them to realize the benefits of coming together, and not just coming together to decide on what to produce, and not just to produce, but also produce a better quality of produce, but also homogeneous in a way. Like if people are coming together, you decide. If you are doing sorghum, for example, there are so many varieties of sorghum, but what does the market need? Then they will decide specifically, let's grow this specific crop and a specific variety, but also even decide on tonnage or the size of farm that each and every farmer in that aggregation group should plant. Then the other issue was to let farmers, like you usually see in programming, some of the time farmers will like, what do you want us to grow? But that's not should not be the question. But the question should be for the farmers to decide. These are people who have come together. Let them make those decisions. Don't make decisions for them. Don't tell them what to grow, but just facilitate them to be able. You give them that capacity to make decisions as a group. Then the other success was on. There was a sales amounting to 108 tons of grain by 325 farmers in 2 years. For example, when I talk 325 farmers, it's not like every aggregation group that forms a sale sometimes, but 325 they were able to sell maize and this is a combination of maize and sorghum together. Then the other issue, we earn negotiation. If you plan to do a marketing component of a program, there is need to negotiate. Like here in Kenya, we have the National Cereals and Produce Board that buys maize from the farmers. You bring them together to the aggregation group, then they can talk together one-on-one, then negotiate even those prices. And what happened for Cereals Board, for example, the price for maize, for example, at that time farmers were selling at 0.15 of a dollar, like selling immediately after harvest, but a negotiated price of 0.3 US per kg. Then for another company that was negotiated and they were able to buy was a company based in Nairobi, Eastern Africa Mounting Limited, which was buying sorghum, gadam variety from the farmers. Therefore, they were also able to contract farmers, and they were able to buy sorghum at 0.37 USD per kg when the farmers deliver to the factory, or they could buy from buy at 0.32 per kg if the company picked the produce from the farmers. But you can see like farmers were able to get like one that, like for sorghum, price from 0.16 to 0.37, which is 1%. Then also price of maize from 0.15 to 0.30 3 of a dollar per kg, which translates also to 100% increase in those prices. On challenges, side selling is a major challenge with the aggregation group, and this happen if like the group, if they sign a contract for 0.3, for example, USD per kg, but once they harvest and produce, then the prices are better. farmers will tend to sign sell, especially the season which are drought here when the produce there is low production of that crop. What happens is the prices becomes better, and the farmers will tend to not to honor the contract, but they will start selling to brokers and other people who are buying around them. Then the other issue is a quality issue. This is, of course, the main reason why the need to do post-harvest management. And quality is a major issue. If quality is very low, then even the buyer might at one point decide not even to buy from that group. Therefore, it's a major issue, training farmers to on how to manage their produce and to keep their quality high. Then the other one is group dynamic related. This is issues relating to the management of those aggregation group. When the trust issue is questioned, and this can happen if like the management mismanages those funds for the group, and this can be able to lead to a group separating. Then the other one is a drought related leading to reduced volumes. This also is linked to the even sign selling, because what happens is productions becomes very low. Farmers, the aggregation cannot be able to meet the demand from the buyer. Like for example, if you target them to get 20 tons, for example, and you end up, because of drought, you end up harvesting less than even 10 tons. If the buyer most likely will not come for the produce, because the quantities are not enough for them to come for those produce. Therefore, it was a major issue. On the key lessons that we learned from this message, this project, the first one was on the need to have, or the partner to have, market intelligence, in that they can be able to obtain information. Market information is very key, therefore ensuring that you know what the market want, what the market need, the volumes that the market need, so that you can be able to provide this this information to the farmers. Also linking farmers. You cannot just form an aggregation group and you don't link those farmers. You need to know who is buying what and where are those people buying from. Then you link them to those opportunities out there. Then the other one is to promote aggregation together with post-harvest management. Post-harvest management is very key, so that those can be able to keep good quality produce and to be able to be competitive in that market. The other one is allocate sufficient time for building capacity in market literacy. You remember Lilian talked about some of the activities that we are supposed to take farmers through, those aggregation groups. Train them beyond their capacity, facilitate them to think beyond what so that they can know what to produce. Like encourage farmers to make their own decision. Once they are taken through the capacity building literacy, let them open up their mind, and then out of it, because they have already the information, market information, then they can be able to identify who to sell to, what to produce for that buyer, what volume to produce, and they already know even the price that they will get from that produce. Therefore, through that, they can be able to make decisions as a group, not just one person. Then organize business to business, B2B sessions. What happens here? You bring the buyers. As a partner or as a person organizing those aggregation group, you are not the person who is producing for the. Bring the buyer to the aggregating group. Let them talk together. Let them make decision after they talk to the buyer. Some of the buyers, not all the buyers you bring that the farmers will agree to sell to. They will listen, they will have that information, then they will sit down and make decision, because they already have that information. They know this buyer, what they need. They know the conditions from every buyer. Then from there, then they can be able to work out. Otherwise, I think that's fine. Thank you so much. I will over to Lilian to complete the presentation. Otherwise, thank you so much.
Thanks so much, John, for sharing on the successes and lessons from Suka. For those that may want additional information on how this model worked, I've included a link to some of the Suka marketing videos that are available We also have a marketing guide that was developed under the program. As we come to the end of this presentation, I just want to highlight that aggregation is a key strategy to help farmers overcome market challenges. And it's possible for farmers that are producing grain to actually get better prices. But for aggregation to be effective, there's need for adequate capacity building and support. And as we are supporting the farmers, it's important to promote participation in the greater role of farmers themselves, so that they are able to make their own decisions. They're also able to implement the marketing activities on their own. Thank you very much for taking time to listen.